Well, our guest tonight on Harmontown has been waiting for a really long time. I just remembered we have a guest.
Oh shit! I forgot.
Oh yeah.
Let's bring him in.
Yeah, let's bring in. For big fans of the podcast, will remember this guy for sure because he directed the documentary that I produced about myself. I always have to say it in that voice. But it was his movie. He directed it. It's Neil Berkeley.
Yeah.
Can I move this a little bit?
Yeah, move it however you want. Oh wow,
Good to be here.
I'm starting to feel like I should have worn a gray T-shirt to this affair.
I want to point out at the top, because I'm getting self-conscious. The reason Neil's a guest isn't because he made a documentary about me. It's because that's how I know him, and that's how I know he made a documentary recently about Gilbert Gottfried, who also fans of the podcast will know, but fans of comedy will definitely know. So yeah, you just did basically. I mean, did you do the same thing with Gilbert that you did with me?
Yeah, I just started showing up at his house every day. Like, I moved to New York and just started living there. I'd go to his house every day at 9 o'clock while he was having his coffee, and I wore him down, finally got him to open up. But yeah, I just sort of like became part of his life and followed him around and went to like 15 different cities in Mexico and Toronto.
How comfortable was he with you becoming part of his life?
He hated it. For the first 2 months, he hated it. He was one of those guys that he doesn't really say no to anything. If you put something in front of him, he just does it, whatever it is. And his wife said, "Come over and try this." And I would do it every day. And he never even dropped the character. Like, he was in the voice. You met him when he's not in character. Well, I would go over there and he would talk like that, and his eyes would squint. Yeah. He would do it, and then finally, I was just going over every day, and he stopped doing it.
Oh,
yeah.
Really? That's really interesting.
He does stop. Yeah, he does. He doesn't. You've met him. It's very awkward to be around.
Yeah, I mean that sounds a little more critical than I would say it, but you're a director, you're not an empath. But I mean, I find it fascinating. I mean, it was his choice because I mean, yeah, like. I grew up on Gilbert Gottfried, like he does that character, and but it's not quite like it's like we're friends with Bob Goldthwait, who would get on stage in the same era of comedy where it was like stand-up was so popular you had to have a fucking accordion or a hammer for a head, and there were some really funny stand-ups who. Like, but it was like, look, you got to have this like character to get like. But then there's these guys. It's like so. Emo Phillips, is he doing a character? Yeah. I've never had a conversation with him where he didn't kind of sound like the way he sounds on stage. And Bob Goldthwait, there's an easy, definitive line, but you only know it from talking to Bob. Bob owns that line and says, when I was doing that performance, I did that act. That's not me. I am now me as a, you rely on him because otherwise you would listen to Bob and you would go, oh, you just made that sound that that screechy Bobcat Goldthwait makes. Like he does still, because how much of it is like, is well, this is how I talk, like sometimes when I get on stage and I have to say something difficult, like I find like I'll cover my eyes or like I'll just engage in these like really arch behaviors that I know that if I step on the gas there, then it's like, okay, like, well then you can get through the nervousness. So you're not shocked to learn that I brought you on and then did all the talking, but this is what I imagined we would get to this eventually, but now we're right into it.
My question off of what Dan's saying is, when he dropped the Gilbert character, what was he like? Like what was the difference between the on character and off character?
Well, he wasn't like performing. He did do, for a long time, he would do like canned lines. Like he would do, it was like being on a talk show with him. People go on talk shows and they've got these canned lines and they know are going to get reactions. It was a lot of that. But eventually he started talking to me about his mom. He was very close to his mom, lived with her till he was almost 40. Devastated when she passed away. His sister is a photographer. She actually shot the whole process of her mother's very sad death. I talked to Gilbert about that and talked to his sister about that. Talked about his father. His father died when he was 19. He had a horrible relationship with his father.
First of all, let's start with the dad. Why was it horrible?
Horrible in that he's one of those dads that was like, become an electrician, get a job. Gilbert quit school when he was 15 and started doing comedy immediately. And he would leave every night to do comedy all night, and his dad just didn't get it. And there were arguments and fights. And then when his dad died, Gilbert expressed a lot of pain about his dad not seeing his success,
Right.
which every comic I talk to,
that would fucking kill me.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what'll happen. Erin, my ex-wife, star of our documentary, she would always say to me, and I know she's right. Like whenever I would say like anything about my family, who like my parents didn't come to my wedding, I still don't know why. I won't ask them. Like what I said, and then Erin's like, "Why won't you ask them why they're not coming to your wedding?" And I go, "Because that's what they want." And she's like, "You're fucked up. They're fucked up." And when your dad, because she lost her mom when she was 17, and she's like, "And when your parents die, you're gonna be super fucked up about it, and you're gonna make it everyone else's problem, and you need to deal with it." Like I'm making her sound. I think I'm making her sound like a hero, but if that's to you making her sound like a bad person, believe me, she's not. Like she was saying it, you know, she was telling it like it is as a person who had a parent pass. And it's sorry to derail you, but like I'm imagining that like, because like what I do have with my dad was a moment where my dad said that he was proud of me and that he observed, like it was way back in the Channel 101 days. We got a VH1 pilot and that was enough. My dad said that like we were having a celebration party because we got our show on VH1 and there was a bunch of people in a bar celebrating because we had done Channel 101. We had followed our bliss. We had done it for free and now we had a television show. And my dad like expressed to my satisfaction emotionally, like, is like, I arrived. Like my dad was like, there's a lot of people in there that are very happy because of you. And that makes me very proud of you. And I was like, okay, cool. Your hotel's down the street. It ran and just like burst into 1,000 tears. And then, so I'm done. Now I know I'm going to be all fucked up if my dad dies, but I just wanted to interject that because the idea of being 19, which I was also like aimlessly, by any objective, like anyone that was watching me would go like, what is your fucking plan? What are you doing? You're not that funny. Why are you interested in comedy? like if my dad died at that time, I can't even imagine. All right, now continue.
I talked to a lot of comics about that, and every comic I talked to, they were all like, yeah, most of us are up there performing for our mothers. We're trying to impress someone that we couldn't impress in the home, and we're trying to do this thing so we can go, look what I did, look at me on TV. And like Artie Lange's died before he became successful, and Jay Leno's mother, like they all expressed real sadness about their parents not being able to see that.
Is this in your films? I'm sad to say I still haven't seen it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Jay Leno, who has this real heartfelt, sincere moment where he says to me, that's the saddest thing.
Because Gilbert's really beloved by other comics.
Oh, yeah, big time. Yeah, there's a lot of pressure. Like Jeff Ross and David Tell, and I think Howie Mandel at the end of their interview said some version of "Don't screw this up." We love this guy.
I asked you, I think when you had just started making it, about there's a story that comics tell about the greatest opener of all time, about the Jonestown massacre. Did you ever ask him if that was like verify that story?
The Jonestown massacre story. I forget the bit, but yeah, he has a famous Jonestown.
Because I remember. Like, I think Drew Carey told it to me, or other comics know about it, and it's like the most famous opener of all time. And it was like one of those things where when a horrible tragedy happens, the day or two after that, it's hard to go up on stage and do comedy, and audiences don't know if they're allowed to laugh at anything, or as a comic, you don't know if you ought to be making people laugh.
That's a big part of the story, yeah.
And but is it in the film, by the way?
That joke?
Yeah.
No,
as I remember it, can I do my bad version of it? Sure. I'm sure I'm fucking it up because this is something that was told to me a long time ago. But he was, I think, at the Fillmore, and he's like, "Oh, the Fillmore in San Francisco, what a great place! I grew up here," which I don't think he did. And again, I'm probably making up a lot of the details. And he said, "I saw Janis Joplin here when I was a kid, and I ended up meeting her. I became friends with Janis Joplin. I was with her when she died. She died in my arms." I held her in my arms as she died. So to be here at the Fillmore is amazing. I saw Jimi Hendrix here. Became friends with Jimi Hendrix. Was with him when he died. Held him in my arms. In my arms as he died. I just got back from Jonestown, and boy, are my arms tired. And it was like the day or two after the Jonestown massacre. Now, I want to know, how close am I to getting that right?
That's it. That's the joke. Yeah. The one Bill Burr told me, he saw him do it. And I think it was right after Jackie Onassis died. He said, I met Jackie Onassis once. First thing I said to her was, do you remember where you were when?
I want to go when the Dave Attell's and the whoever else you interviewed, like you mentioned a couple names, like I love these guys, and they know Gilbert better than I do. I had one encounter with him because of your relationship with him. He came and did my show, whatever. Put a pin in that. But when those guys would get up from the end of their interviews and say, "Don't fuck this up. We love this guy," what are they? Do they go into more detail than that? Like what is it about Gilbert in the eyes of all these other craftsmen that makes him a hero?
When I would always ask that question, like, what is it about this guy? And they would always just say fearless.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's fearless. He just doesn't have any line, doesn't have any boundaries. He just says whatever he thinks is funny, and they love him for that.
But because he looks scared, and he looks like a weakling kind of, like he doesn't look like a tough guy. The fact that body and that body language is so fearless. Like, what was it a film or a special where he just told dirty jokes? He just said jokes?
Yeah, well, half his act is joke. He hasn't changed his act in 30 years. I mean, he tells Molly Ringwald jokes.
When I was a kid, I saw his stand-up special. Who knows? Cinemax. I don't know what network it was. But he did this set, and I didn't know at the time. I believe now, looking back on it, that he must have been doing Seinfeld. But he did a set, and then he would do his set for a while, and then he would take these little pauses, and then and finish a joke and go, and that's why, and then what do you? Yeah, that's what I want shoes for. And then the audience is laughing, and they stop, and then he'd just like change his tenor and go like, why do you want to talk about that? Yeah. What are you doing shoe jokes for?
Yeah. His Seinfeld impression is amazing.
That's actually in the movie. There's a clip of him when he puts glasses on. It's like this aside, kind of a Jim Gaffigan aside thing. And he's like, that's crazy. That's nonsense.
Well, is that his Seinfeld impression, or am I just merging those things in my head? Because at the time, I kind of hope it wasn't, because I thought it was genius just as a lateral thing. That it was sort of like Kevin Meaney's, his mom, his inner monologue about his mom. Always was like I love it.
You're like a crazy person.
When comics are just like, because I do that too, and also Dana Carvey, when I was doing the Great Minds episode with him where he was doing JFK, like because I had mentioned like Dennis Miller's impression of him. Like Dick Harvey was like no matter what he did for the next 6 hours, then he would just follow it up with this like horrible criticism of himself in the voice of Dennis Miller. He just like riff a take, because it's a largely improvised show, and then they'd like, okay, cut. Let's do it again, and then he'd be like, Jesus, Carvey, what are you? And he would just like lay into himself like under his breath. Anyways, there's something really important about that, because Justin Roiland is like, it's Rick and it's Morty. It's
I asked him about that character. He would never cop to it, because it wasn't interesting in the story. Because he wouldn't ever. I was like, "Is that your mom or your dad? Is that someone in your past talking to you like that?" And he would say, "No, I just thought it was funny. It's a bit. It's what I do." But other comics have mentioned that. Like Piscopo brought that up. Piscopo was like, he would do this on stage, and I think it was his mom like berating him or yelling at him.
I think I saw it was like, it's a very, where's he from? Chicago?
Brooklyn. No,
okay.
Born in Coney Island, grew up in Brooklyn.
I also like Schraub, like really does that really well too. Like Schraub's inner monologue is and you're not sure audible. If it's his mom or his mom / dad, / pastor / gym teacher, but it's like,
but he'll do it in front of you, like he'll talk as his inner monologue.
Yeah, I asked him about the voice and all that, and it's. I wish there was a more satisfying answer, and it's in the movie. And he says, "Look, I just went up on stage 1 billion times, and eventually I woke up and said, oh, I guess I act like that now." So that's just kind of, he said, but his Seinfeld thing is actually, a lot of comics brought this up. So before Seinfeld became the Seinfeld we know, like before the Tonight Show, people say that Gilbert invented the Seinfeld impression, because he would go on stage before Seinfeld and do Seinfeld's act as Seinfeld.
Yeah.
And they said Seinfeld all the comics would come out to watch, and he would pace and just furious, like, what is that? What's he doing?
Who wears sweaters? Why do you wear a sweater?
But he said that when he comptrolled for us when we were on some tour.
I can't believe I missed that.
He was replacing you.
Yeah, I know. That's a giant bummer.
Yeah, but he was. I mean, now, having put a pin in this, I mean, that was my one encounter with him, was like, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what Gilbert Gottfried would be. I'd only ever seen him in performance. And when he showed up and he was just like very like, God, I really don't want to use the word frail, but now that I've said I don't want to use it, like now it's in your head, but it's like, he was so like, he was almost in hibernation.
Well,
like he was just like sort of like shuffling, and it wasn't a lot of that he wasn't being passive aggressive. He wasn't like, why am I here? You know, he was totally like down to do whatever was required of him. It was just like this person that was just like, he was just shuffling in with his wife, who was very like, or sort of like kind of almost translating for him, like, and going like, where should Gilbert go? What do you want from him? And what are your stuff? But he was just very good. And he was like, so what do you want? I can't remember what he sounded like, but I would go like, oh, you just go out there and you just sit in a chair and like explain. I was like, okay, all right, okay, yeah. And I was thinking like, what's he going to sound like when he goes out there?
Right. Yeah.
And then he went out there and people like went crazy, and then he kind of like stepped on the gas of like milking how people were going crazy, and then it's just like, ladies and gentlemen, Harmontown, and I was like, holy shit, Gilbert Gottfried's here.
But that's a reaction a lot of people have, and I remember that. I guess that's what I meant by awkward. Like when you do meet him off stage, especially if he's about to perform and has to deliver. Like I've gotten phone calls from people that I've set up for him to do stuff, and they'll call and go, hey man, is he okay? Does he not want to be here? Is he upset? Like he's very quiet, and he would not be upset if I said this, because people that watch the movie, the way he is physically with people, like anyone with any sort of like spectrum-y stuff in their family have all said there might be a little bit of that going on, because he's very quiet. You know,
because don't people say that about Daryl Hammond? Like that. Like I've never met him in person, but like that's like and then Dan Aykroyd, who has been diagnosed and said I'm autistic. Like it's not like people get confused, I think, with performers, because performance is like, it's a natural human occurrence. So we have this delineation where we go, oh, you're performing, as opposed to being real. But no, there's no such thing as a human interaction that's not a performance. We're a political animal, and people who are on the spectrum, like the reason why it's impossible to diagnose them without 7 years of pointless like tail chasing, whereas you can just look at a kid and go, boom, autistic, not autistic, next. Once you get to a certain age, it's the capacity for performance is so extreme that that person doesn't know who they are. All they know is they don't want to get beaten up. Like, just leave me alone. Like just let me, or give me whatever. Like, what do I have to do? Do I have to talk like this? Do I have to talk like this? Do I have to talk like that? You talk like this. I talk like that. Like there's like functional autism, like seems to be a big thing in like great impressionists, and like it and so that comes to mind, because it's like that there would be no delineation with him, unlike with Bobcat, who doesn't have like a bunch of autistic traits. Bobcat is just like, I'm just this guy, and I kind of got into this scene, and then I stepped on the gas pedal doing this character, and then that started to really punish my life. So I lifted, I got sick of it, and by Police Academy 9 was like becoming self-sabotaging, and like pulled out and like pursued my bliss, but then you have like, so again, Emo Phillips, Gilbert Gottfried, Daryl Hammond. I hope it's not rude to refer to these people as if they're like some egg basket of people that I'm implying.
I met Emo, like I did a show with him, and like he's Emo. Like I get the feeling from my limited interaction with him. It's like, after the show, he's like, hey, Jeff, did I do a good job?
And so kind, he's like, oh, thank you so much.
I don't know if I was funny enough. And
but he's talking in a way.
Didn't he try and do it without that for a while? I thought he did another version of his act that was a little more.
So here's the funny thing: if Emo Phillips tries to do that, like that's another version of a bit that he can do. Maria Bamford does the same thing. Like she has this bit where she goes like, well, should I talk like a and then Maria Bamford will just like become her impression of what I'm going to say, a neurotypical person. I don't know what Maria, claims to have or doesn't have, but like I'm just saying, like when she does an impression of a normal person, it's so funny. And then like that's also like Gilbert Gottfried, like in his act, going like pausing in the middle of that, going, "Now why would you do that joke?" Yeah. And then he like, and it's also unsettling because it's like. Well, I hate to, like my fans are sick of hearing me the peekaboo thing, but that's comedy. It's like it's like the idea that you can't tell the difference, the idea that there is no difference. Like that's.
Well, what Neil was like after. How long were you around him, like in close quarters?
About 7 months. And
what was your relationship like? How did it? So you said how it started, and then you kind of broke through. What's it like now, or what kind of steps did you go through with him?
It's fun. Like I think he came up with a routine to be around me. Like he came up with a behavior around me. Like this, he behaves a certain way. We're friendly. We get along. We can. It's not like awkward like it was at the beginning.
Does he enjoy promoting the film, or is
he loves it? Well, he loves doing press. He loves doing stuff like this. He'll complain about it, but once he's in there, he lights up and has a great time. He's going. Yeah, he's going.
Does he talk about like? Does he feel more alive when he's performing than? And I mean,
we talk about the movie. He hates it. He said the worst 30 seconds of my life are the 30 seconds before I go on stage.
Oof.
He wishes the manager would come out and say, "Hey, there was a flood. Here's your check. Go home."
Wait, that's not quite. That's the 30 seconds before.
But then he gets on stage and he's okay.
But then the adrenaline hits him and he lights up. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
the thing that I like. Some of the comics I know is that they're maniacs before they're on stage, and on stage that mania is their bliss.
Yeah.
Does he did he talk about like does he remember his time on stage? Or does he like black out?
No, he not in the movie doesn't talk about it, but he did tell me that there's times where he thinks he's more thinking about like whether he has to do laundry that night. Like it's so rote for him. Like he's like right, Mick Jagger can probably go on stage and do his act and not even think about what lyrics he's screaming out. Mm-hmm. Like he's that into it. Like.
Well, I'm bummed I haven't seen it. Where can we see it now? Is it like where is it out?
It's gonna November 3rd. It's gonna be at IFC Center in New York City, where we opened up Harmontown.
And has it had any like festival appearances?
Yeah, it's premiered at Tribeca. It's in a few festivals. And November 10th, it's going to be in LA at the Lemley Fine Art in Wilshire and the Lemley Monica in Santa Monica.
I mean, I really want to see it in the theater. Like, I know that we're friends, and like you've offered to like send me the file and watch it, or if you have, I was out of town and didn't know, but like. I'm such a fan of Gilbert's that I'm really looking forward to just seeing. Also, I like, and not to blow smoke up you. Like, I like the fact that your weird fetish is finding strange lifestyles and then documenting them.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Beauty is embarrassing. It's so gorgeous, and
Yeah, you've got this trilogy now of amazing people. But no, I mean, I can speak from experience because as we talk about, like, you're definitely not. There's all these different documentary philosophies. Errol Morris might say, no, I don't. There's no such thing as truth. I just want to tell a story. It's like I'll shoot extra footage. I don't. The Measley brothers or whatever the fuck they were.
Maisels.
I'm not a documentary.
Maisels.
Yeah.
Right.
I saw a documentary about documentary masters, and it was like I was amazed to realize, like, holy shit, yeah, documentary does not just mean roll the camera and what happens.
Yeah.
However,
they made Salesman, right?
Yeah.
That's
the first Academy Award. Yeah.
That's kind of like a little close to what you do, I would say. Like, you follow around lonely people, and it's beautiful, and
but
it's
also
horrifying
no seasoning, no Lowry's, no salt. Like they gather footage and then they piece it together.
Yeah. That's the thing that's tragic and like you told me. I asked you, hey man, this Gilbert thing is a good idea, and you're like, I don't know. I'm not sure there's gonna be much of a story there. And you were right. It was really hard.
But there's not
he was
really
like, you thought I was hard.
There's not really a story to Harmontown.
Well, yeah, that's probably what it was. Is we're coming off of like I would have thought a year before or before we did our time together, I would have thought fucking A, make a documentary about me. Obviously, that's what I thought.
Yeah, but then again,
and the ending, and I was like,
if there is any story, like in terms of like story structure to it, it's almost the story becomes more about the audience than us.
Yeah, and Spencer, journey.
Spencer goes on a journey, and the audience is like we learn something about what draws Harmonians to the show.
Yeah.
And that, like, every time I watch the Harmontown movie, it's I tear up at the beautiful things that our guests say.
I had to watch that movie again recently for this thing I was doing. I'm very proud of that movie. I really, not to toot my own horn, but I'm really proud of the way it came together. And I remember when you got your job back, you said, got some news for you, give me a call or something. I saw you and you go, you're welcome for your third act.
Yeah. At least your credit bed. No, the credit bed was putting Spencer on the show, yeah. But yeah, and it was McGathy who said, we were struggling so much. You were like editing and like, and then I remember it was McGathy who was like, tell him to make it about Spencer, you fucking idiots, like, because it was
I've got this great photo that, like, the first day that I was with you shooting, and who is the camera guys?
Ryan?
Ryan.
Yeah.
And we were at Dan's house, and Dan and Aaron were kind of in a little bit of a tiff, and there's this shot. I just picked up my camera, and I have a picture of you with your camera, and Dan just like glowering at his kitchen or at the dining room table, and Aaron looking miserable. I'm like, oh fuck, that was day one of Harmontown. Let's all get in a bus and go around the country together.
One of the first days was actually in this booth. You brought me in here when it was full of those taxes, and there were like notary machines, those things that make the notary, the stamps. It was we have footage of that. And then after the tour, the day we got back, you're standing right there, and you said you're like talking to the camera and said, "Yeah, someday there'll be podcasts."
Oh, that's right. And we started the tour.
No, yeah,
outside.
You have footage. I forgot. I didn't even connect that. I wasn't saying that for your benefit, but I remember you have footage, and I was in that doorway. And I said one of the douchiest, like, talk about edgelord. But I remember saying in the doorway there, I was like, yeah, Sony always thought they knew more about writing than me. Let's see if I can run a studio better or something like that. I'm like, oh, great. Yeah, what a douche. And
day one, our driver, Jason, we had this awesome tour bus outside. That's the tour bus in the movie. Jason's kind of underrepresented in that film, I think. He's kind of in it, right?
Yeah, he's not really in it. He got really good at dodging the cameras.
Yeah, he was hilarious, and he was a maniac, and he was like a Hunter S. Thompson character.
That was one of the best. That was fun, man.
And we were outside.
I would love to do it again.
Aaron, outside of Starburns, right here in the parking lot, had bought 100 million T-shirts to bring on the bus, so we didn't have room for anything. Like, there was no room for camera equipment or anything. And Jason, the driver, was like, "Fuck this! I quit. I'm going back to Arizona. Like this is a nightmare." Like that. The beginning of that, I had made a prediction, and I think I even said it on camera to you. I was like, "There's no way we make all these shows. There's no way we get to all these shows. It's wintertime. We're going to be on the East Coast.
Sick."
And somehow Jason got us to every goddamn gig on time.
Yeah.
He was a genius.
Did you hit snowstorms?
Oh, yeah.
Huh? Oh, yeah.
Going to Colorado.
And Salt Lake City, we were up to our hips. Like, it was...
Yeah.
And
no, it was crazy. Like, it would have
been a better movie if we didn't make it to some shows.
There are people in other parts of the globe that would... Yeah, like, but short of, like... Well, more so than... the worst turbulence I've ever been in on a plane, but slightly less so than, like, maybe the couple times that I thought I was drowning. I on that bus, I experienced, like, moments where I was like, "Fuck, we're gonna die," because it wasn't really because it was empirically. It was, like, not as turbulent as the planes, but it was the fact that there was just no visual sense of what was happening. All we knew was that we were on this, like, road, and that the driver couldn't see, and that it was all white outside, and just white.
And he was supposed to have chains on his tires, but didn't do it because it's bad for the bus, which is illegal, but he still got us through.
Well, if you watch the extended cut, it's in the extended cut of Harmontown. There's shots where he is ripping down the highway, and cars are pulled over, and you can hear other truckers going, "Oh, this guy's going way too fast. Here comes this bus."
He was listening to that. They're coming, and that's what I loved about it. He was the Elon Musk of drivers, because he was listening to their chatter, and they were going like, "What the hell's wrong with that guy?" And it's like, because I'm not a slave to the revenue system or something. He had, like, these weird, like, Hunter S. Thompson things.
I think it was like day 2 on the road, because our first stop was Arizona, right? Do we fuck Phoenix first or something like that?
Phoenix, yeah.
And he had just gotten to know us and didn't like us all that much, and we had stopped at, like, a Walmart or something to get, like, supplies, like, to get, like, drinks and fruit and food and whatnot. And I came back onto the bus, and he didn't know that I was on the bus. He was walking around muttering to himself, "These fucking savages, savages, savages."
But that was kind of his bit, right?
And so I sat down. I go, "Oh, are you a Hunter S. Thompson fan?" Because that's a word that Hunter always uses. He goes, "Yeah." And we sat down and we talked and we became friends, and gradually he loved us.
Yeah.
But he pretended that he hated our guts. Also, he was armed to the fucking teeth. He had an arsenal of firepower on that thing.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Like
A lot of bus drivers do. They have lots of weapons to like save the day. He had guns.
People see that movie and they always ask me, like, was that a rough time? Was that hard? Because they see some of the shots where we're in the room having some, dark, intense conversations. And I always say, no, man, that was a lot of fun.
It was a ball.
It's to eat and drink and wake up in a new town every day.
Apparently when I left, because I left when you guys were in Denver and somewhere else.
Oh, that's right, you left. Yeah,
I had to go like do paying gigs and came back, and the crew looked at me and they're like, "Oh boy," I'm like, "What?" Like Aaron and Dan have been going at it. Like apparently you guys had a real bang up, like drunken row on the bus the night before, and they're like, "We're happy you're back to kind of keep order."
We were too similar. I mean, I'm respectfully silent about our breakup because number one, it was mutual, it was amicable, and more importantly, number two, like when Aaron and when I first started talking about how we got divorced, there was a night at Meltdown where one of the interns came up to me and handed me a note from a young lady in the audience, and it said, when I was 10 years old, my parents divorced, and I had to choose which of my parents to live with, and I chose my father and had to listen to nothing but what a cunt my mother was for the next 20 years of my life, and it never changed. And I just want to thank you for having a divorce and respecting your ex-wife.
Wow.
And I was like, and it was exactly what I was thinking in my head when I was like, okay, this is it. And let's, Aaron and I spent our courtship and our marriage Instagramming and talking and airing dirty laundry, and we made a documentary and warts and all. And the whole thing was about transparency. Ironically, it was about transparency of a couple of individuals who were so into transparency because we were both so meta, so performance oriented. Our entire relationship was like a boat made of water. It was like simultaneously like the best idea in the world and the worst. It's like you're already sinking. It's made of water, but no, it's like fucking the best boat ever. It was one and the same. She and I both were so meta and so. It was like in part in the documentary, like the reason why that added just even more twists and pressure was because Aaron and I would sit and watch documentaries together, and Aaron was so savvy, so smart, was such a mentor to me as a feminist. I'd listen to what she would have to say about female characters and or real people in media and how they were being, betrayed, supported, attacked, and she went into that documentary going, God damn it, I am not going to be the documentary wife. I'm not going to be the documentary mother. This is it's a very, very chiefly female role in the documentary about exceptional people. There's like a female threshold guardian that their talking head is all about well, Dan thinks he's special, but the truth is he needs to eat more vitamins or whatever. And you just want to throw your shoe at the TV and go, boo! And she was obsessed with, I'm not going to be that person. And the irony was, and then add to that my obsession with I'm not going to be all these other people that I have in my head.
Did Gilbert with his wife or friends and family of his were there relationships that were important to the Gilbert documentary?
His sister, yeah, his sister who passed away a few weeks ago.
Oh, jeez.
That's a big part of the story. Not her passing away, but she had cancer, and
were they close?
Very. That's again. I knew nothing about the guy, but every day that he wasn't working, he would do this 3-mile walk to the Lower East Side to visit one sister, over to the West Village to visit the other, and then back home. Deeply, deeply devoted to his family.
That's great.
Incredibly.
And when they're together with the family, are they like, because there's people who are deeply devoted to family who are like, they're just always like yelling at each other, and then there's people who are like best friends.
No, confrontation's not his thing. He would never, I think if you came at him, he would just cower. They talk about like seltzer and, news weather, they don't, it's like most classic older generations.
Which I now understand because, that's like it is in this tumultuous year where my relationships with myself and everything, it's like I just realized, that's where family is supposed to go, is this spot between yourself, your friends, society, and then there's this, it's your family, like, and it's supposed to be conversations about weather. It's almost like if you can just not hit each other and you just all recognize. I guess I learned that from watching Cody and her family.
Yeah. Does that affect, like, I know about your relationship with your parents, but as you get older and mature, are you ever going to start reaching out and communicating with them, or is it just going to be something that just?
I'm always. I mean, I don't have an acrimonious relationship with my family. I just don't have what Cody has with her family and what I observe with other people, where you have a it's like the default is connection, and if there is no connection, something's wrong, which to me, that I'm looking at that as an abnormal person and saying that's normal. That should be normal.
Is the family hug or I love you? Are they? Yeah.
No, yeah. We say my family, but and it's like weird because I'm like a bred from the same family, but it's like I wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah. But it's like, and then you're gonna go like, it's like. That's why we like, I think, those myths about like the Addams family or like misfit, like when you lock into like this family, they're kind of like, they do things differently. Like they're not like that white bread family that like does things by rote, but it's like we fetishize those like outlaw families and things because they're so different and they're so weird and they have such a different way of expressing it. But the default, everybody kind of agrees, every primate agrees in their fiber that like, but if you don't have unconditional kind of like a connection, and so that involves ritual and tradition and stuff. But I think that my family, like, I think when we were trying to engage in tradition and ritual, we were so ulcerated about it. Like we. And that my parents actually had a triumph while I was growing up of going, you know what, we don't have to do things this way and that way. And for them, they had to realize that family didn't have to be this thing about rules and stuff. Because if they, and that was good, but I'm babbling. But I was going to ask, so with our thing, it was like a big threat that, well, we're getting to the end of the tour. This movie's obviously going to span the tour. So where's the story? And that's why it was a great thing in post for Aaron to say, like, make it about Spencer. We're like, oh, shit, you can make it about Spencer. He just goes on the tour, and then you're done. You got a story. Your two other documentaries, you're going to the person's house. You can theoretically just keep going there
forever,
as long as you want.
Yeah.
So I guess my question to you is, like, is there a point where you go, I got it? In that case,
well, in this one, there was, like, his sister was really like, okay, I see. There's no, like, he doesn't do anything. He's not writing an act. He's not doing a one-man show. So there's no, like, thing to watch.
He's not trying to get a star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame. There was an Adam West documentary. Yeah. It's like you want to hook into some kind of goal.
Yeah. So he's not doing that, but there was a moment where his sister let me capture something that he's very much a part of. And that kind of tied it all. And I felt like, okay, that's where we see him rise up. Because we hear about the Affleck thing and him screwing that up and getting his job. And then we go through this whole talk about comedy's role in society and too soon and all that. And then we see the result of that, the way he deals with that. But yeah, there was a moment where I was like, okay, that's where I think we can tie this up. But yeah, I could still be shooting right now. Like, you could shoot forever.
Do you have something else that, like, are you the kind of person that has 3 other people that you want to go document, or?
I'm there's a few that I'm, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you did an interview with Piscopo, I'm sure when he walked out, you're like, Jesus Christ, sequel. Got a million questions.
Interesting guy.
No, I do have. I really do have a lot of questions for him because it's like
I'm not
actually. Dan and I talked. I love that writer's room idea. Like that fascinates me.
I'm obsessed with that, but I just don't think that all. Yeah, like I said, it's like I was just telling him like you gotta just. I mean, yeah, just like when can we just cover a writer's room for a season of television?
That would be fantastic.
Just when we came back, like Rick and Morty was in full swing, and I met Justin and Rob was here and Dino, and I was like, "Hey Dan, maybe we should get cameras on this because these people are really interesting."
There's also like I do a lot of shows like at theaters, like performing arts centers and theaters around the country and Canada and other places, and you talk to the stage managers there that have been there a long time, and all the stories they have, it's really fantastic.
Yeah.
Because I just always ask, like, who is just here? And they go, well, Andrew Dice Clay was here, and that was a little interesting. And they tell you the stories. It's so like you get to know a little bit about Andrew Dice Clay, about how fucked up he was before the show, peed on the back wall, disappeared for a while, no one knew where the fuck he was, and then walked out and killed. like was completely blacked out and then just went out there and destroyed. Then after the show, dead. Just like inoperable, right. Carry him back onto the bus.
So interesting, because if you're that person's doctor and you go like, okay, so it looks like you're incredibly miserable right before you go on stage and do this character that you've been doing for 40 years, and then you go back to being miserable. Have you considered, but that's easy for me to say because I'm not a stand-up. I don't have the discipline which is going to be a dying craft thanks to assholes like me in this technology where it's like, I just want a guy I can relate to. And it's like, well, then how will you ever become a Gilbert Gottfried? How will you ever become
Does Gilbert have like
Patton Oswalt?
Any depression?
Yeah. Well, he's got that classic thing that a lot of celebrities have of this is all going to go away someday. Like this could be gone tomorrow. The phone could stop ringing. He talks about that in the movie.
A lot of stand-ups I know, and a lot of like really successful comedians have a certain degree of depression.
Yeah.
That like there's a real.
I think happiness makes him depressed.
Right. That's a very Dino and I talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
Like we consume our happiness through sadness, which if you're a biology student, it makes a lot more sense. It doesn't sound as paradoxical because that's what digestion is. You take things in from the outside world and you use like catalyzing enzymes to subvert them, change them, and you make them into something that you can then draw energy from. And like Dino and I are like cynics. So if there's a reason to be happy, like for instance, hey, our movie's nominated for an Oscar, we're not going to we can't just take that form of energy and translate it into something that powers us. We have to pour booze or jokes or self-loathing or self-destruction on that so we can like suck it up like Brundlefly into our system, like but for that reason I do find that like people think that I'm more fucked up than I feel. But I think that people perceive me as less happy than I am. Because if I'm happy, you'll know because I'm listening to M83 and like sound like I'm about to blow my brains out. But it's like, because that's when I'm like, I'm Tony Stark. What's there left to do but be Bruce Wayne? I'm going to like look out the window at Gotham and like drink a drink and be like, fuck, I feel like world.
The times that I look back on our friendship, Dan, as of like the times I thought of you as your most open and happy weren't the times where you were totally on top of the world. Like you are happy now because like things are going well and you are happy. But when we were really struggling and confused and didn't know where we were going or what was going to happen, like there was a free fall like feeling of like joy in that.
There was for some of that, but then when you were successful and I wasn't, I remember you saying to me, we got in a fight in an instant message, and something that you said that stuck with me because I was like, he's right. It was like, or not right about right or wrong, but I was like, listen to this, take this in. That you said like, I'm starting to tell you less about my successes because I don't want to hear you have to choke out a congratulations, which was like, I've observed that in other people. It was like that's important to note, because I also, now that I'm in my 40s, I'm like, man, when we were in our 20s and we were broke, we were so happy. Yeah, but then one of your 20-year-old, we were happy in each other's arms.
Yeah.
Spiraling down a drain of eternity.
We needed friendship to survive, and so that felt like joy because we would hug and cry.
Friendship is more intense and a lot easier when there's no money changing hands.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Friendship, family, that makes you happy. And so when you're broke, like, you have a much easier chance of having like really strong friendships.
Yeah.
And really,
because we needed each other to make it. Like, you were paying my bills, and then I was paying your bills, and then you were paying my bills.
Yeah, and if we had it all to do over again, we might go, maybe it's not about making it. Maybe we nailed it with the friendship. Anyways, but I did want to say, I wanted to ask one thing, which was that because... Well, that's something that really annoys me at the TCAs or whatever when people ask. It's like, as a person who's famous for putting his foot in his mouth and saying fucked up things, and like Gilbert's got the whole too soon experience and the Affleck firing, all this stuff. Like, I hate it when people ask me this, but I am curious about it with Gilbert. Are there any regrets? Like, would you do it different? Does he address that in the movie? Do you ask him that in the movie? Like, would you go back and, like, he's famous for that moment in the roast where he does the first 9/11 joke on like 9/12, and
the closest we get to addressing that is that Affleck thing only made him more popular. He said nothing of it. He would say...
It certainly put him on the right side of comedic history.
Yeah. Nothing he's ever done has hurt him that bad, and most of the things he's done has propelled him. Like, Jeff Ross says at the end of the movie, he sells out. He's more popular than ever. He's gigging all the time. So yeah.
That's fantastic to hear. Yeah, because that's what I always say to those people. I'm like, I don't know. I don't have anything to compare it to. I run my mouth. I burn my bridges. But here I am. I'm very happy. Like, I don't regret anything. I don't want to go back in time and, like, say the perfect thing to the New York Times in that one interview. And I'm sorry I made that one joke. I'm sorry that offended people. But, like,
I think that the biggest thing you and Wayne and Gilbert have in common, and people like you, is that you're going to do it, but you don't think about the money or the success or the failure. You do this thing, you put it out there, whether it works or not. Like, I think everyone wants to be like that. Everyone would love to just not push people around and be a raging maniac, but just people would like to do whatever they want to do that day.
Yeah, just to find out, like, that's what's great about documentaries, especially. Like, I mean, all film, or all good film, is that there's permission to be strange, permission to be odd and flawed, and there's like a liberating feeling when you watch that, like to know that, like, yeah, you can be sad and still be funny,
yeah,
and you can be lonely and still be happy occasionally, and you can make it and feel like a failure.
Yeah. So can you we don't all get to have a moment in our lives captured in an hour and a half movie. Can you watch that objectively and see a different person and can feel different now, or can you?
I don't know. I haven't watched it. I can't.
Or, I mean, like, do you feel, because you had a lot going on then, like, in personally and professionally, a lot going on now, but do you feel like a happier person or a?
Definitely happier, yeah. But that's really weird. I don't want to say like I saw a kid, like, I call everybody kids, but like. There was a kid that made a YouTube video that I don't know how I ended up here because I can't Google myself anymore, but I wound up on some YouTube video, and it was like, I don't know, something like Dan Harmon. It didn't say Dan Harmon's a piece of garbage and here's why, so I bothered to click on it, but it was something like Dan Harmon and the meta narrative or something like that, and it was a guy who was talking about how he has been following my career since the beginning, and he was using clips of all work from Community and Rick and Morty and Acceptable TV and the movie. And he was explaining that, just these sort of like weird things about how, like, I don't even know how to say it. Watching that YouTube video, which included so much of the documentary, which it was a tool that guy used to put together a thesis that wasn't about how cool I was, but that was about how cool he was allowed to be. Like how he who's learning from me that storytelling, fucking up, succeeding, famous, rich, self-destructive, failure, impoverished, like death, life, like who gives a fuck, like shove them all in a thing. You're not going to get to manage your image. And like the guy was like clearly drawing some permission from that to do what he wanted to do. And I was exceptionally happy in that moment. That we made this movie, even though we haven't made a goddamn dime off of it. How like?
Wait, nobody ever made money off it?
No, how? I mean, what,
we had 1 million T-shirts.
I don't understand. The reason we made that movie.
You know what we do?
To be perfectly frank, is because I was watching on Apple TV. There'd just be documentaries every week. It'd come up and go. It'd be like, I went backpacking across Iraq and I sure made some new friends. And I'd be like, this motherfucker's rich right now, and I'm not.
It was the Craigslist movie. You kept bringing that up.
The
He's
like,
this guy.
I thought I'd use Craigslist to Craig some lists. This documentary is called Craiglisting.
But you know what we should do, guys? And I'm not joking. Let's do the European tour, and then it's the Steve Levy story. But
we have to agree. We're not doing it for money.
No,
that's what I understand.
No, you're going to lose $100,000 on the tour bus.
Fantastic, like a good 45th birthday present to myself.
Let's do that again. I mean, would that and be honest, is there any angle that makes you as a filmmaker want to go do that, or just to go hang out?
I think it'd be fun. It'd be great. Like some of the choices we made, like we brought remember we brought rolls of green screen. Like we had no idea.
We had
there was a chance.
We had those ear cameras. We had those ear cameras that we thought we were going to wear these all the time.
Yeah.
We wore those twice. And,
however,
that worked out.
What we got, the
one of you in the bathroom on the bus.
Yeah,
is really
you cast a wide net, and I'm wearing a fucking lipstick cam on my ear in a drunken blackout. And the entire time he's editing the thing, I'm like, I got that ear cam at home.
Yeah,
I got that thumb drive, and I was like, I would be like, I still got it. I was like so torn. I'm like, God damn it, your movie doesn't have this moment, and I think it's on my ear cam because I woke up with it on my ear and a Solo cup in my hand.
Well, there also is a thing that. Like, I don't do drugs. I don't do coke anymore. But apparently, the last time I did it was caught on audio. That there was audio of me.
Can we tell that story?
I fuck yeah. I don't care. I don't do it anymore, so we can talk about the past. But the last time I did it was on that tour.
Yeah.
And I had a little bit left with me.
There's two parts to that story, though.
Okay.
There's me hearing about it and then me telling Dan. The first part is I was called in the edit bay, and they go, hey, we don't know what to do with this, but there's no picture, it's just audio. Anyway, here he goes. And it was don't stop believing.
It was a power mix of like 5 cities in a row, because and it was like the formula didn't waver. He doesn't know anyone's listening. It's like it makes you fall in love with
just a small town girl.
We were wearing microphones the entire time. Like, I could go to the bathroom. No one's listening.
And there was a come on down to Harmontown. So good.
Jesus
and then
Christ.
I came in and told Dan. I said, "Yeah," and he goes, "When was this?" And I said, "Brooklyn." He goes, "You go that motherfucker."
Yeah, of course.
I asked him every night if he had any. I asked him all the way to Brooklyn.
I had some at the very beginning, and then I found the rest of it at the end, I think.
That's why Coke's no good, kids. Like, go get a prescription to Adderall. Like, Coke. I stopped doing Coke when I got my Adderall prescription. I also stopped lying to my friends, and stopped like putting myself in situations where I might get pistol whipped.
But the best was the singing between lines.
No, that's the thing. Is like you would fall in love with Jeff as a character in a sitcom because it was like so faithful. The bathroom door hinges, and then a classic, a standard being flawlessly intoned, and then a tap, and then a. between two.
I admire your sensitivity because you asked me and said, "Hey, we're not going to ever show this. We're not going to use it in the film.
Yeah.
Do you want me to destroy this? Only 4 people know about it." I'm like, let's just leave that. But time has passed when we can talk about that.
That's good.
That trip was so fun.
Oh my God.
I want to find a reason to do that any other time again.
You do it all the time, but you mentioned it once, there is that feeling, like, you do feel like a rock band walking into these clubs with your cameras, it is like a cool...
And the tour bus, getting on and off those buses.
Well, I tend to process everything through negativity and regret instead of just going, oh, that was so fun. But it's like the most enthusiastic thing I can say about the idea of doing that again is, God damn it, it was wasted on me. Because I watched the documentary and I'm like, motherfucker, CBS don't give a shit about your script. It ain't never going to be on CBS.
Well, because you weren't writing it.
Well, I was trying, but it was like, don't, like, just have fun.
There was that beautiful moment when Aaron was helping you with it. When you and Aaron like actually were working together, that was a really beautiful, like, relationship moment.
There are people right now waiting for work from me that it's like, come on, this is just part of the, fuck, my definition of when I was unacceptably over a deadline was as dumb as my decision to take those jobs and as dumb as my decision to not have the time of my life on this bus. The question would be, am I the kind of person that just can't have fun? Can I not go, Jesus Christ, I'm on a tour bus. This rules. This is so fun.
Well, I think that it goes back to that stress of happiness. You find a way to screw that up, maybe.
But I've been in therapy since then, which is something that I swore against back, in those days. I was somebody that was famous for my rants about how therapy's not worth it, and I've been in therapy since. And one of the things I've been unpacking is the possibility of being addicted to stress and misery and stuff, and because it's your comfort zone. Because comfort's different from happiness, so you're just like, oh, I know what to do. I'll be overworked. I'll have a deadline. I'll have shit to do. And I do think what's changed, because ask anybody that's waiting for work from me right now, I'm not under that stress, much to their chagrin. They're gonna get their money back. I'm like, I've now entered this like new age, I think, where I'm like, fuck work. Like, it's the dumbest, and it will not prove that you're a good person, and it will not make you happy. And but you're. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. Your work is a huge part of like your identity. Yeah, no shit. And that is both. Like, I'm not gonna say that's the problem, because if I that's not good. Like that's because that doesn't last. But if your work is your identity, guess what?
Yeah.
Then you stop existing.
But yeah, then it's. But I mean, why should I believe that you're ever going to stop doing that? I think like that's what you love. You love creating things. You love getting unconditional love from strangers because you made a good thing.
I think the thing that'll change I think the thing that is changing now is that Rick and Morty, quite frankly, if I can open source my career here for a second, Rick and Morty was always a wonderful, amazing, incredible, fun thing to execute that was always about half of my overhead of living. My price of freedom, the price that I have to pay my masters in order to eat, shit, fuck, jerk off, watch, sleep, blah, 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 whenever I want, in whatever quantity I want. Pick up the tab when I go to dinner, fly first class wherever I go, say yes to any time anyone says, come here, fly here. There's a nut on that, as they say in grody boiler room language. There's an overhead. It's a little over $500,000 a year. Rick and Morty, for the duration of my contract, was like generating around half of that. So I had to, like, number one, I couldn't just do Rick and Morty. Number two, I had to always dread Rick and Morty going the route of Community, because Rick and Morty started as an exit strategy from Community. So now everything that's changed is like Rick and Morty. It's not going to stay this like incredible, like, holy shit, what's this show? Everyone wants to talk about it, to the point where Variety is printing headlines sadly, awkwardly trying to link us to Harvey Weinstein. It's like, I mean, that's when you know you've really succeeded, when there's like clickbait headlines that are like, what does Harvey Weinstein have to do with Beavis and Butthead? Like, that's when you know you're Beavis and Butthead. The answer is nothing except fucking clicks. So this is a show with momentum. This is a show that I can settle into, and I can pay myself to actually do. And that's a huge difference from when you knew me and from the last. That's the thing that's changed, is that I can actually go, I don't think Turner's going to go out of business. I don't, and unless the world just literally like collapses, and if it does, then who cares? Like I now can see that I can have one job. And that's never been the case since I was 11.
That's great. Well, now get fired from it so we can make another documentary with Neil Berkeley.
No, I want to do the documentary where I'm happy.
All right.